Welcome to Sustainable Solutions with Terrius Bruce. This is the podcast where we dive deep into the world of sustainable living and explore ways to create a greener and healthier future. I'm your host, Terrius Bruce, and I'm here to take you on this journey as we find ourselves and we find better ways to just be great people. This is episode 1. I'm excited about this one. On this journey, I've been wanting to, find a way to talk to people and build community. So start a podcast, and here it is. So a little bit about me. I'm an environmental scientist. I'm also a farmer, and I specialize in urban agriculture. I'm an entrepreneur, community activist. I authored a book. It's called The Young Garden King. It's a children's book. Also, I dig deep into my spirituality. I practice a few different spiritual practices, one being Ifa, yoga, meditation, and I'm a world traveler. I'm a father. But more importantly, which I think that this podcast connects with most people, is I'm a life seeker. I love to learn. I love to experience new things, food, culture, just to be in nature and just absorb the energy that is one with all of us. We're going to have conversations, around sustainable living, and we'll touch on topics such as agriculture, spirituality, food systems, health and wellness, different lifestyle changes, and just adventures. Some of my past travels we'll talk about. We'll have conversations with different people in different fields and different walks of life. But also, this podcast is about personal motivation. I want to share a little bit about myself, about my journey, and kind of how I became so passionate about sustainability. I've always been fond of being outside. I mean, don't get me wrong. I enjoy being indoors, and I love watching movies. I love the electronics as much as anybody else. But being able to be out in nature has always been, something that's called me. Thinking back to even when I was, in elementary school, I always enjoyed just going and exploring in the woods. Now, it's interesting because when I think about that, I probably used to get in trouble like a lot because I would just disappear and just nobody would know where I was. But I mean, during that time, it was a different time. When we went outdoors, we had to stay outside. So it wasn't so much of a concern. It was just a matter of why I would stay so long. My mom didn't really give me a curfew so much, or say I had to be back by the time the street lights came on. She just kind of wanted to know where I was and have an understanding of what I was doing. But at the same time, she was a single mom and she worked a lot. So I kind of did everything on my own. I was a middle child, and for me, I lived life on my own terms. And I think that's something that still sticks with me, is that I really don't follow rules. I acknowledge that rules are there, but I kind of do what I want to do. And I think that has got me in trouble a lot, but at the same time, it set the tone for the person that I am. I tend to break a lot of boundaries, not just with people, but just with things and places. And in this life that I've lived, I think that going against the grain has served me higher or a lot more than going along with what other people say and what they do and conforming to the rules. And I think that's a part of why this podcast exists. It's like I'm in a PhD program. This is going into my 4th year. And I know that most people are like, well, why are you doing a podcast? You're supposed to be focusing on work. But it's like, this is the work. It's like being able to reach out to the people I want to serve, the people who are me, that was me before I became a PhD student. How will they get the information? How would they know that they are a great person just like I'm a great person? That's why the podcast is here. And I think about just so many things, like the fact that I wrote a book last year. I wrote this children's book when I was supposed to be doing work, but I wasn't doing the work. It's like I was doing everything but the work. And I think it's paid off, in so many different ways. And as I reflect, even in this moment, going against the rules and recreating my own rules and my own truths and my own agreements to the life is the ultimate pathway. So this podcast is for everyone thinking about, what am I going to do with myself? Or what if this person says no? Or what if they are upset with me that I do it? I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, they'll get over it. At the end of the day, you have to wake up and see yourself in the mirror. You have to answer to you. And I think the biggest disappointment would be to upset yourself and disappoint yourself. So think about that with whatever task that you are thinking to accomplish, whatever goal you have. It's you. It's only you. It's always you. Those other people who are standing in your way, you've put them in your way. So that's my journey. And I think about so many obstacles that I faced in life. And the source of my strength is internal. It's me aligning with God within and being true to self. And I think that's what's got me as far as I've come. I've come here for a reason. I come here to share my journey, with the world, and continue to just grow and continue to blossom into the being that I am. So let's talk about sustainability for a little bit. So being in a space where I remember there's this space in Tallahassee that I would walk around in all the time as a kid, like all the time, even though I wasn't supposed to, because it's technically private property. It was wooded area, Falls Chase. When you go to Falls Chase now, it's totally different. Falls Chase is fully developed. There's commercial spaces, there's residential spaces there, but before it was nothing but woods. It's a space that was designed to be what it is now, but because of regulations and legislation, it never continued to pass. It just got stopped. It got halted for almost 30 years. And eventually they started developing it to what it is now, and they're still developing. But I used to go through that space and just be free. It's like going to school didn't matter. Being inside the house, it definitely didn't matter. I could find freedom being in nature, seeing, the different trees, identifying different plants, just seeing animals just free, seeing snakes, seeing deer, wild turkey. I remember me and a childhood friend, we would go into Falls Chase all the time, and we do like different scavenger hunts, or we find ways to get trees and build like forts or tree houses. We were kind of crazy kids, but at the same time, we were exploring and we were seeking out just freedom. Now, I think about that space and I think about development and how do I improve my environment without destroying the environment? Because again, change is inevitable. They're going to develop the space. It's like looking to conserve things to a point where nobody else can do anything with it is absurd. None of it belongs to us. But we have to be responsible with the things that we have. So I look at that development and other developments, and I wanted to understand how could I have an impact on my environment, on the planet, but in a way that, doesn't harm nature. How can my kids be able to experience the same things that I did, but also benefit from the built environment, being able to have the luxuries of a home with AC, being able to have access to food or a grocery store. It's an awesome place that they developed it to. There's food there. There's a place where you can go and have entertainment. There's a movie theater there. There's a place where you can have fellowship with community. There's lots more people that live in that area. I think last time I was there, I think there was another 100 homes that they built. But when you think about that, that's less trees, that's a bigger impact on the watershed. Now, all of these things I wasn't thinking about as a kid. I mean, I didn't even know any of these things existed then. But as I reflect back, these are some of the challenges I saw that I knew that it would be a problem at some point, but I also thought it was bigger than me. I didn't understand that my voice had an impact until I got older. And that's when I started to get to a point where I knew that there's something I had to do, but I didn't know what. And at the same time, when I was younger, my grandfather and my grandmother, they had their own property. They had land on the northeast side of Tallahassee, and they ended up losing that land. Eminent domain ended up taking that land, but they never did anything with the land. It just sat there. But my grandparents got an opportunity to still live in that space, until they passed on or until they moved out. And in essence, that's kind of what happened. But I understood that change was inevitable and there's nothing that we could do about it. However, we can find solutions that are better practices that serve more than just the human being, more than just a selfish or personal need, but serve others that are around us. Because this built system that we're putting in place is also harming the animals. It's also harming the microbials. It's harming these other systems that are in place that allow us to benefit. We say that we enjoy the beach or we enjoy the nature, we enjoy nature walks, and we like to be able to go out and just appreciate all these things. But if we continue to destroy and degrade, then we won't have them to appreciate. So I just think about that. I thought about that a lot when I was growing up, and it got to a point where that became something that I pushed back, in my mind. And I wasn't really thinking about too much of that. I was thinking more about, well, since I can't do anything about that, well, what can I do? And my mind started to be focused more on just getting money. Money became the focus, because with money, I can do the things I want to do. And I can find my own land and I can build my own things. So my passion for money became, how do I have enough money to buy land and bring my family together and keep my family together? That was like the passion for me. I remember always going to family events. And then I remember how much it affected me that people would just leave. And I saw that it's just like a common practice. It's like, yeah, these are your family members, but you only get to see them for a short period of time. They got to go and live life. Like their life is not with me, which was strange, because it's like, for me, when I was younger, I was like, well, why did they even come? Like, why am I here? Why did they align on my path? And I don't think I really ever expressed that to people. But I always thought it. I always wondered, like, well, why do you come around for only a short period of time? Like, I love you. Like, I care about you. Like, I want you to be here always. I love the laughter. I love the jokes. My family, man, those people are loud. They cut up, they have a great time. And it's like a family reunion every time we get together. It's never a dull moment. Now, there's definitely bickering and all of that. I mean, it's a family. That's what happens. But when I think about my family, I don't really look at them as extended family. I look at them all as one. We're all in this together. And I began to, as I got older, I began to see that it wasn't just my blood family that was my family. It was the people that meant something to me, people that I connected with along the journey that were also included as my family. So I wanted to get the money to build the family so they would not have to go. And that was my passion behind, wanting to be in nature and wanting to have family. That was my motivation. So it wasn't until later in life that I realized that I started to lose focus and I started to pay more attention to the money than I started to pay attention to the purpose. And it was in 2016 that I had a reading with my guru, one of my Babas in Tallahassee, Florida. Shout out to Dr. Dana Denard, Baba Kamal. And he gave me a reading, and maybe a couple months before that reading, I've already been on a journey of, discovery to understand what was my purpose again. Like, I felt like I just lost my purpose. I didn't understand what was for me. And I needed to find that again. And so I had a reading. But before that reading, I was making a list of, everything that, my list of incompletions. And one of the incompletions on my list was to go back to school to get a degree that really didn't matter to me. But it made me understand that before I can move forward with the things that I wanted to fulfill in my life, I had to complete the incompletions. So fast forward to, it's time for me to go to this reading, and I'm sitting with him, and my ancestors are speaking, and they say it's time for me to go back to school. But on the list, school was like all the way down to number like 9. It wasn't number 1 at all. And he said, no, it's time for you to go back to school. And they said that you need to do something in the environment. That was not what was on my mind. What was on my mind was something in business or maybe something in psychology. Like, I really enjoy people. People are my favorite animal. To be able to watch and observe people, to go people watching is like so fun because it allows you to see a different reflection of self. But at the same time, people are crazy as hell. People do some of any and everything. So to be able to observe is like very, very fulfilling for me, right? Even to this day, I love it. And so I was kind of thrown off that he said that I'm supposed to go back and do something in the environment. I mean, it just didn't make sense to me. But, I sat with that. And one of the challenges was that I really couldn't go back to school because at the time I'd screwed around and my GPA had got so low to where if I was going to go back to school, I was going to have to pay out of pocket. And that was not going to happen because at the time, I wasn't going to give up extra money that I needed to take care of, bills and take care of the house. I had kids at home. I had things going on to where at the time I had a lot of challenges going on in life. It was time for me to kind of figure out what I was going to do. And if I had to go back to school, I wasn't going to pay for it. That's just real. So I was dating someone at the moment, and this person assisted me with, getting back in school. And they asked me like, what was really happening, for me to not do well in school, because school is easy. I mean, I'm not sure who's listening to this, but that shit is not hard. It's a matter of applying yourself and making sure that it is something that matters to you. If you can take the work that you are focusing on in school and apply it to something that's practical in your life, school is not difficult, at least for me. So that's what I'll say. So I shared that, during that time, that, my grades were really slipping. I mean, school never was a focus. And I had a death in the family at that time. It was interesting because in 2006. My grandfather died, my dad's father, Yale Benjamin Bruce Sr. He died, and, it was just a lot going on. And she told me that I needed to just file a grievance. So she assisted me with, going through the process, and I ended up getting back to school. So my goal was only just to finish my AA degree. Again, I was wanting to keep it simple. I wanted to cut the list down, and I wanted to, finish my list of incompletions. And I ended up going back to school, and I realized that not only did I enjoy learning, which I already knew, but the path of environmental was the best for me. It's like it was something that I enjoyed learning about. It connected to my reality, and it allowed me to prepare myself and my family for a better future. So I got my AA degree, and along the way of getting my AA degree, I ended up going to Costa Rica. Now, my plan was to go and be an environmental engineer, but that didn't work out that way. I'm just an environmental scientist. No, nothing wrong with it being an environmental scientist. Nothing wrong with being an environmental engineer either. But this is the path that was best for me. So I ended up going to Costa Rica, and I realized that this is it. Being in a space where I can connect with other like-minded people who have a passion for the environment and have a passion for change that benefits all of us. That was the way to go. That was what was for me. And I came back with a totally different, refreshed mindset when I came back from Costa Rica. And I ended up going to undergrad at Florida A&M University, FAMU. And I got my bachelor's degree in environmental studies and agribusiness, minor in agribusiness. And it led me here. From there, there were so many different things that came up since then and have, changed my path. I've traveled to Ghana, again, traveled back to Haiti. There were so many things that, shaped my reality as I come to today. But I'm here now. I'm here in Arkansas, and I feel like I'm being like super tangential. But what I'll say is, as far as sustainability goes, we live in a world where we are full of consumerism. And I don't think that we pay attention enough to, what we do. And I think about, that journey, and I think about, being in Costa Rica again, and how they live, and how sustainability matters, how the ecosystem is important. And it's an understanding that the world that we live in is important. Our environment is important, because if there's no environment, then there's no us. If there are no trees, if there's no air to breathe, then what happens to us? So on this podcast, I also want to talk about, integrating sustainability, in everyday life. And that's a big part of, being, in Costa Rica, because I think about those experiences where sustainability was in the everyday life, local food systems where people continue to thrive, and they didn't depend on a large global food system. Even though those things were present, people didn't depend on them. They supported local food systems and farmers because they understood the importance of that life. They understood that the food that we eat is intertwined with our spiritual journey in our life, and it fulfills us not just physically, but also mentally and spiritually and emotionally. So those are the things that I thought about, and those are some of the biggest things that I took away from that experience in Costa Rica. And so I want to bring those things to this podcast, and I want to be able to explore practical tips and just give expert insight on how you can live a more sustainable life. And I think that together we can discuss, all these things, anywhere from starting your own urban garden or your own backyard garden, to reducing food waste, and also, transitioning to a more of a plant-based diet. And I think that a lot of this, leads to incorporating, more mindfulness into the things that we do. What are the agreements that we choose to take on in our life? Why are these things important? And what are we doing on our day-to-day? When you get up, when you listen to this, what are you doing in your life that you can improve on? Are you eating healthy? Are you spending on things that you don't necessarily need? Like, do you need another plastic bottle? Is there any way you can just buy a bottle that you can reuse and fill that up? Just thinking about our actions will lead us to either a better future or one that is shorter. That's something to think about. How long do you want to live, and what is the legacy you want to pass forward? Most of the people that listen to this, they're going to have children. What are the things that you're teaching them and showing them? What practices do they understand about their lives? So on this podcast, and I know this is my first podcast, first episode, so I'm going to keep it kind of brief. And I want you to know that we're going to talk about some sustainable business practices, about teaching kids about sustainability, even how to travel the world more responsibly. Okay. And I also want to just kind of touch on, my journey of becoming an author. I want to inspire the next generation. And that's the reason I wrote The Young Garden King. And that book is, it's a wonderful book about gardening and sustainability. I think that children light up as they learn to grow about their own food. And it's so rewarding to see the passion that they have, and see that everything that they've shown me and their reception to what I've shared with that book and their joys is also the biggest inspiration of me starting this podcast, to be able to know that I'm able to reach more people about the joys of sustainable living and just the benefits of just being in a space where we are our best future. We are our brightest future. But we also can be our doom and gloom. We got a choice to make. I think that we can do that by just being great. Just thinking about the things that we are doing. Write down what you do on a day-to-day. And just look for better ways. Can you improve just one part of your life? Can you get up a couple minutes early? Can you stretch? Can you give yourself some attention to where you are focusing on improving yourself and not just buying stuff? I think that we live in a society where, it's all, like I said, it's all about consumerism. It's all about what can the next person do for you, but what can you do for yourself? I think that we should really pay attention to, what we do, how we act, and, how we think. Our thoughts drive all of those things. And so, yeah, that's my first episode. And I just want to say that I'm excited because right now I am in the process of completing my comprehensive exams for my PhD. By the time this episode airs, I'm hoping that I'll be passed and completed and I'll be on to the next. But I'm also excited because I'm going to also be doing a series on mealworm farming, and I'm going to let this series, reflect kind of some of the practices that you can do just to start. And I'm going to really be able to show people the world of mealworms and also the potential for them to be a sustainable food source. And I know that's kind of wild, eating bugs, but this is a challenge that, we face. We face challenge of global food security. And some of the things that we can do is we can look at alternative solutions to sustain our food source. So we'll cover everything you need to know, all the way from setting up your own mealworm farm to the nutritional benefits of mealworms. Also, I'll be speaking about how they can contribute to a more sustainable food system and how it's the key to reducing food waste in your own home. Okay, so stay tuned for that. And so my final thoughts is whether you're looking for a way to make small changes in your daily life or seeking a deep dive into sustainable living, I think this is a podcast for you. So stay tuned, subscribe, and join us on the journey towards a more sustainable future. And I just want to say thanks again for listening. This is Sustainable Solutions with Terrius Bruce. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review. I love feedback. I'd love to know how I did on this first episode. I think I'm going to continue to do this and improve. So I love to work and do this with you. And I think together we can make a difference. And thank you so much. Feel free to follow me on all social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok. It's Terrius Bruce, Terrius Bruce. And stay tuned and stay connected and just keep the conversation going. Peace.